2026 continues to be absurd. We have a missing former major general. And it's not just any major general, although anytime anyone's missing, it is upsetting, and I hope we find them. But this is Major General William Neal McCassland. This is something I was just writing about him upon hearing the news of his disappearance. It is reasonable 2026 logic to wonder if the disappearance of Major General William McCassland, retired U.S. Air Force officer and astronautical engineer known for leading the Air Force Research Laboratory at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, whom, this is true, Tom DeLonge emailed John Podesta about in 2016, thank you, WikiLeaks, regarding the Major General allegedly having access to the Roswell debris because allegedly the debris from the Roswell crash was shipped to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and then McCassland was the guy in charge of that laboratory years later for a very long time. So I think this is reasonable 2026 logic to possibly think it is connected to the murders of Caltech astrophysicist Carl Grillmayer and MIT Plasma Science Fusion Center director Nuno F.G. Lorio. Or the 68-year-old just got really lost in Albuquerque, where he was last seen. That is a very bizarre story. You remember the tweet I read from, I think it was a week or two ago, in the wake of the second astrophysicist, the second physicist who was murdered, that one being the one, I believe that was the one in Caltech, was the second one, the MIT professor being the one at the end of last year. The tweet I read theorized that perhaps they're being taken out. This is just theory, but perhaps they were taken out. Maybe there weren't coincidences. And perhaps they were taken out to cover the tracks of whatever UFO disclosure might be coming down the road. And they were surmising that maybe those two scientists would recognize something they were seeing, and they would be able to subvert the narrative of the UFO disclosure. Meaning that perhaps what we'll be seeing is fake, manufactured, man-made. Not fake, but like not what they say it is. And that these scientists who work very closely in these fields, whether it's astrophysics or the Plasma Fusion Center, like this is the director of the Plasma Science and Fusion Center director, that they might recognize something in the technologies that would be released through quote-unquote disclosure. And at the end of that tweet, I wish I had it pulled up, couldn't find it in my notes, so sorry about that. Maybe you guys will know or remember what I'm talking about. But he said, if there's a third murder, then we have a pattern. And I was saying that I don't think there would be a murder. I think there would be something else that could be connected. To me, this is the part of the pattern, although it could just be that the man went missing. They say he has health issues. They don't say what it was. Like maybe he's got dementia. I do not know. But the fact that these two scientists were killed senselessly, randomly, maybe not randomly, on either sides of the country, and now we have this guy who worked. He was the commander of the Air Force Research Laboratory, working with things that I believe were probably closely tied to the things these other physicists were either aware of or working on. You can go online and search the Major General's name, William Neal McCassland. You can see him. There's a 2013 lecture he gave about technology that he was working on at this research laboratory. You'll see a lot of things pop up in that lecture that echo back to things that I think these scientists were either working on or privy to. So it's not like I'm just randomly connecting things. There's lots of things that seem a theme that threads through these three people's careers. It's weird. So, and the Tom DeLonge part, I'm going to get into some articles here with this guy and other stuff, because people are like this first thing I'm going to bring up. They're kind of connecting it to the Nancy Guthrie thing. I think she was much older, but it's a weird disappearance. I know people don't really have the bandwidth to care all that much about it. I mean, it is really sad to think of someone you love going missing. It's horrible. But we are experiencing, I mean, anything happened this weekend? I don't know. Are you reading the news? Has anything gone down? I'm not so sure. There were reports of a UFO over Iran after the bombings, but just like, is it AI? Who knows? We're in the fog of war. We've been in the fog of war. I mean, we could probably date it back to at least JFK being assassinated, but earlier. But like we don't know what these planes, if you're just waking up and have no idea what I'm talking about, and you happen to hibernate over the weekend, we are bombing Iran with Israel and a bunch of other countries. I mean, I guess the UK is stepping in. It's awesome. It's everything that we all voted for. Maybe you're into it. I'm not so into it. And the Pentagon has already come out and said that Iran was not close to having nuclear capabilities. But like, who do you believe? I don't believe the Pentagon. I don't really believe Trump. And they all have different messaging when it comes to why they did it. Anyway, people said they saw a UFO. Some people, I think like it was Chris Bledsoe saying he believes it was an angel. It looks like AI to me. It all looks like AI. And the fog of war, it's like anything that happens, you got to really be careful on what you want to believe. It's like when the ghost of Kiev, I got to say Kiev, they did such a good job with the propaganda of changing the name of Kiev to Kyiv. Anytime they change a name, or the pronunciation rather, of a foreign land, we're about to bomb it really into oblivion. Iraq, once we started calling it Iraq, we bombed it. Iran, we started calling it Iran, we're bombing it. Maybe that's just me. So if they start changing the name of your town, or the pronunciation of your town, I recommend getting a doomsday shelter, going underground. But oh man, all that's happening over the weekend. And like last week, as I finished recording last Thursday's episode, I closed the computer, and now there's Hillary Clinton talking about getting questioned about UFOs, and all these different UFO related situations happening from that testimony. Bill Clinton saying on Friday that Trump had nothing to do with Epstein. All that's been totally buried now, in way below the fog of war. But now we have this, and I am fascinated. Retired General William McCassland is missing, and some are drawing parallels to Nancy Guthrie. This is one of the first things I saw about it. So I was like, all right, we'll get into this and see what they're saying, and then we're going to peel it back a bit. Tom DeLonge, the email, and then more disclosure stuff. And it's interesting because we keep wondering about the narrative of a UFO. What is going on? Why are they telling us about it? Why is disclosure important now? Why is it not taboo anymore? Is it distraction? Is it a new narrative shift that they need to install to get us to reconsider the nature of existence? What's going on? Also, what up with that sound last week? You guys, if that was, I'm going to put it in nice terms, that was flatulence, I would have deleted it. This is pre-recorded. I swear. No, that makes it sound like it really was now. But I was holding the mic like this. Nothing. I tried recreating it. It was obviously in the audio afterwards. You all heard it. That was very strange. It bothered me. God, ruined my lunch. Okay. Major General William McCassland was the commander of the Air Force Research Laboratory at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio. We have been talking about this place a lot the past few weeks, so it's also just very interesting to me that this is now in the news in a major way. Also, thank you to the people in the comments who gave me music recommendations. I have written them down, and I plan on looking them up. I'll do it today. So thank you for that. Please do that. You can always leave suggestions for music in the comments. I love that, and I hope that becomes a thing. In that position at Wright-Patterson, he was responsible for managing the Air Force's $2.2 billion science and technology program, as well as additional customer-funded research and development of $2.2 billion. That's what his official United States Air Force bio says. That's a powerful position, and now McCassland has mysteriously disappeared. That's caused some people on social media to draw parallels to Nancy Guthrie abduction. See, I went the other route with the two physicists, but I am interested in why they think this as well, because I also think she's a distraction or a psyop. As I've been saying, I don't think the FBI is going to give her back until we stop asking about the Epstein files. So that's why they had to start a war instead. As with Guthrie, 84, McCassland, 68, which is not old, is an elderly person with some prominence and medical issues who suddenly disappeared in the American Southwest. Beyond that, though, there is no indication of any connection, and authorities have not said there is. Unlike Guthrie, authorities have not said that McCassland of New Mexico was abducted, and he's not getting a lot of news coverage. They've issued a silver alert for him. Well, I guess it started last Friday. Some things have been popping off in the news, but we knew Nancy Guthrie has the heart monitor, I guess the pacemaker, and but I think this should be fairly big news for a major general with such like a kind of pretty important history in his career here. That's what gives me pause to think that maybe it's connected to something else. So before I continue, what I'm basically saying is, in my theory here, is that he's been disappeared because he too might recognize something in upcoming disclosure. I guess there'd be a lot of people, you might say, like there's a ton of people. But I also believe, and I think this tweet said it that I'm referencing that I read a week or two ago, is that everything is so compartmentalized that not everyone even understands what they're building or what they're looking at. Much like the Manhattan Project. I think with a lot of this stuff that they're building, because I think a lot of the stuff we see in the sky that we call UFOs is man-made, and perhaps with the help of demons. But I believe that it is highly compartmentalized and only a few people, it's a small club. It's on a need-to-know basis. And this guy, in my opinion, would for sure know something. It doesn't mean he knows everything, because there's always someone above you. Still, as with Guthrie, the disappearance of William Neal McCassland is an odd case, largely due to his background. It's not every day that a retired general goes missing. Here's what's known about McCassland's disappearance. So I chose this one just from the Men's Journal, not because it was the only one, the first one I saw this morning, but also because it's like very just mainstream. I'm very curious as to how deep it was going to go. United States Rep. Melanie Stansbury published news of McCassland's disappearance on X late on March 1st. So today being March 2nd. We've issued a silver alert for retired Major General William Neal McCassland, a longtime leader of Kirtland and former commander of the Phillips Research Site and Air Force Research Laboratory. And they show a picture here, QR code. He was last seen on February 27th at approximately 11 a.m. in the area of Quail Run Court. Unknown clothing description and unknown direction of travel. Due to his medical issues, law enforcement is concerned for his safety. And I just want to remind everyone of how they were able to tap into what we were told was a turned off Ring camera. And that even though it was turned off, they were able to go into like the back door of the camera and extract footage to show us things that I think should not have been recorded if it was turned off, but we know they're never really off. So just think of that while we're wondering about how they don't know anything about him, like what he was wearing, because I think they do. We are in the surveillance state. They know exactly where everyone is doing. They probably know what you're thinking because they're beaming their brain scans from the satellites above to translate your thoughts as best they can. Or maybe he was just nowhere. He was last seen okay, we read that. The Air Force released a statement on the retired general's disappearance. We are coordinating closely with local authorities and defer all updates regarding the search efforts to the county sheriff, said Colonel Justin Seacrest, base commander of the 377th Air Base Wing at Kirtland. in a statement to the Albuquerque Journal. Our thoughts are with his family during this difficult time. You could also theorize that this is a foreign thing. You know, there is so much chaos and absurdity happening as we speak, and it's easy for people to want to connect it to what's happening abroad. We had this Austin mass shooting. They're saying he appears to be like terrorist adjacent because he had a Quran in the car. And perhaps that is the case. I do believe sleeper cells are real, clearly. We know how Iran, it was so prepared to be decapitated at some point with their supreme leader being taken out, because they've layered the their Pez dispenser of power so thoroughly in preparation for this kind of war and these assassinations that they also plan sleeper cells. Clearly, we do it. Russia has done it. This happens all the time for decades and decades. So maybe the Austin mass shooter was connected to some sort of terrorist organization or false flags. You never really know, and people don't want to hear it, especially as tensions are this high now, and people are getting very emotional. And like, if you criticize Trump, you're now automatic leftist to the diehard MAGA crowd. Totally ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But false flags are also very real. We know that's exactly what they plan out for a long time. And I'm just saying that, keep that in mind, as I like to say quite often, especially as tensions are this high. Please do remain suspicious of anything that confirms your bias about anything, domestic and foreign. Something I really started to say to a lot of people after October 7th, because that was clearly, the Iron Dome just failed like that. It's weird to me. I think it's very strange. And a lot of people were questioning how that could happen. But you go back throughout history, and we have to ask these questions. It makes you think of the terrorists, so they say. I think it was New Orleans, right, on New Year's Eve going into 2025. And remember they let that journalist randomly in his house? Like, it was still... It appeared to be an active crime scene still. And they let this journalist inside his house where he had like bomb making materials. It was like chemicals and stuff. And wouldn't you know that he had a Quran opened up to a page about martyrdom. And perhaps that is just what happened. Perhaps he was connected to some terrorist organization and he was reading his Quran before doing that. It happens, clearly. But it seemed really on the nose, and I also didn't understand how authorities let a journalist walk into a crime scene. Like, I think it was within 6 to 12 hours after he killed all those people. I think that's the one who drove his truck to the crowd. But my goodness. So, how did I get here? I don't remember, but I was talking about how this guy might have been abducted by something foreign. Maybe that's what's going on. It doesn't seem to me to be the case. I'm just totally theorizing here. He could just be lost. He could have a problem. We know I'm crazy. I got this board in my back of my brain here. We're pretend this is my subconscious, and I'm connecting all these dots. Maybe they don't need to be connected. Fine. But those two scientists getting murdered is weird. 2026 is weird. 2025 was weird. The years get exponentially weirder. So I think it's reasonable, seeing as how absurd everything is, you have to kind of apply absurd logic. Now, things just happen. He could just be lost. I just think the connections are too odd to ignore, but I'm open to anything. I'm curious what you guys think. Am I reading too much into this? Or is there something weird here? Because we are leading up to this disclosure thing at the same time. At the same time as the taboo has been completely erased from the mainstream and our elite politician class to talk about UFOs. Now, Trump is talking about total UFO disclosure right before we started bombing Iran. And now this guy was in the WikiLeaks, being referenced by Tom DeLonge. I believe McCassland also helped DeLonge build out his panels for To the Stars Academy that DeLonge runs. McCassland was also responsible for a global workforce of approximately 10,800 people in the laboratory's component technology directories. So it's a lot of people. General McCassland was commissioned in 1979 after graduating from the U.S. Air Force Academy with a Bachelor of Science degree in astronautical engineering. He has served in a wide variety of space research, acquisition, and operation roles within the Air Force and the National Reconnaissance Office. And he talks about that in one of these lectures from 2013, like the crazy technology they're using that they see out in the field and surveillance technology. He commanded the Phillips site of Air Force Research Laboratory at Kirtland, AFB, New Mexico, and served as vice commander of the Ogden Air Logistics Center and the Space and Missile Systems Center. That's pretty wild stuff. He previously served at the Pentagon, first as the Director of Space Acquisition in the Office of the Secretary of the Air Force, and then as Director of Special Programs Office and the Undersecretary of Defense for Acquisition, Technology, and Logistics. So this guy has a lot of information in his brain. That's a lot of information about some of probably the most top secret stuff going on regarding weapons and whatever else mysterious is going on. General McCassland, and Tom DeLonge, and I will probably get to this, but Tom DeLonge also told Podesta that, according to Tom, he doesn't believe that McCassland was like a real skeptic of UFOs, but he was a true believer. General McCassland holds a doctorate degree in astronautical engineering from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. So there we go. That's just another connection to MIT, where he studied under a John and Fanny Hertz Foundation Fellowship. Oh my goodness. So let's get into that email. I have this from the Rolling Stone. Let's see, is it? Hope it's not under a paywall before I pulled it up, but it looks like it is. All right, I'm going to try to pull this up. The freeway. While I do this, I'm going to say what's up to everybody out there. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you all had a great weekend. Despite all of the insanity in the world, got to remember, it's a blessing to be here. Every day is a blessing. I found the freeway. I found the free way to read it. Do you guys know the secret to the free articles situation? I'll tell you right now. Lean in. Everybody lean in real quick, because don't tell anybody this. Maybe you already know. But if you go to archive.ph and you paste in that link that's behind a paywall, you will get it for free. Okay? I don't know. I used to tell my students, don't buy these books. Either find them super cheap somehow online, but if you can't do that, you can not always, more often than not, you can find the book for free online. And a good way to do that is searching the book title with the phrase Google Books. Doesn't always work, but it does work a lot of the time. Life is expensive, and school is too expensive. It is ridiculous. College is such a scam for most things. Like I started to see it as a student when I was in college, but then you really start to see it when you're a professor. You see how horrible the administration is, how they treat everyone, and how they do whatever they as in the administration will do whatever they do to inflate their budget to give themselves more money and make you, the student, pay way more. It's just another form of slavery. It shouldn't be that expensive. I think the idea of college is great. I think the idea of sitting in a room, people reading and talking ideas and debating should be a great thing. But college has been completely hijacked, and it is very sad to me. So, from the Rolling Stone magazine, the once great Rolling Stone. Used to be so good. I'll take a quick break here. I hope that swallow wasn't too bad. I'm trying to get better. I'm going to try to remove it. I'm going to build a microphone that automatically just takes out that sound. If there's already one, I got to find it. Read Tom DeLonge's leaked email to Hillary Clinton campaign about UFOs. This is from October 11th, 2016. And you guys know Tom DeLonge, right? I've been saying his name, but I'm sure everyone knows this is the singer of Blink-182. The recent WikiLeaks dump revealed that former Blink-182 guitarist Tom DeLonge emailed Hillary Clinton's campaign manager about UFOs, according to the Wall Street Journal. The guitarist sent his first note to manager John Podesta. And you guys, we know this is not a good person. This is a strange, demonic person that I don't think anyone should associate with. And maybe also Chester Bennington's father. I've seen it out there. Who knows? They do look weirdly alike. In October 2015, though, the two had previously met as Tom DeLonge introduced himself as the one who interviewed you for that special documentary not too long ago. DeLonge goes on to discuss a multimedia project, ostensibly his vast To the Stars effort, before requesting another meeting with Podesta. I would like to bring two very important people out to meet you in D.C., DeLonge wrote. Oh, and real quick, there are a lot of theories that McCassland, who was talking a lot to DeLonge, as I've said, might have been part of some psyop, that maybe he wasn't a believer in UFOs and all this stuff, and maybe he was feeding misinformation to DeLonge. And that's possible. And if you want to take that route, we can then go back to articles we were reading just last Monday about the UFO lie and how the Pentagon, right, who this guy's attached to, was feeding out a lot of misinformation to the public, to the journalists about UFOs, creating this mythology about UFOs to distract people from technology that they were building. So that is a rabbit hole worth considering. That I think is the main one. I would like to bring two very important people out to meet you in D.C., DeLonge wrote. I think you will find them very interesting, as they were principal leadership relating to our sensitive topic. Both were in charge of most fragile divisions as it relates to classified science and DoD topics. Other words, these are A-level officials worth our time and as well the investment to bring all the way out to you. What's my age again? And it ends with that. He's just, every email ends with a Blink-182 reference. Just kidding. DeLonge contacted Podesta again this January, so this is back in 2016, sending an email with the subject, General McCassland. Apparently, a reference to a former Air Force official with, according to DeLonge, information relating to the infamous Roswell crash. In the email, DeLonge insisted that McCassland was not a skeptic, despite the general's own previous insistence, and added when Roswell crashed, this is a quote from DeLonge, when Roswell crashed, they shipped it to the laboratory at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. General McCassland was in charge of that exact laboratory up to a couple of years ago. He not only knows what I'm trying to achieve, he helped assemble my advisory team. He's a very important man. So just to clarify, he wasn't there, obviously, to receive the debris from Roswell, but he was there years later, and then he was there, I think he ran it for a few decades. While the WikiLeaks dump included no messages from Podesta to DeLonge, a calendar notification dated the day before the General McCassland email suggests that someone named Susan McCassland Wilkerson accepted a meeting invitation from Podesta and the guitarist. While DeLonge has long documented his alien obsession, from Blink-182's Aliens Exist to his To the Stars project, Podesta has also openly discussed extraterrestrials and encouraged politicians to reveal what they know. Let's take a quick pause there and hear this. Let me open this up. This is what they hyperlinked to when they were talking about Podesta, talking about UFOs. But I think it's just Dr. Kaku talking about, let's see. I'll try it anyway.
UFO believers, listen up. You may well be vindicated. We are back with an out-of-this-world town square and a new book out later this week. Government officials, pilots, and scientists going on the record about their own close encounters. Michio Kaku, professor of physics at CUNY University and host of Sci-Fi Science on the Science Channel, got to read the book early, and he joins us with a review. Quite simply, Professor, do unidentified flying objects without question exist?
95% of all UFO sightings can be immediately identified as the planet Venus, weather balloons, weather anomalies, swamp gas, you name it, we've got it nailed. It's the 5% that give you the willies. 5% remain totally unexplained.
And you're saying to 5% unexplained to the point where they are legitimately an unidentified flying object.
And we're talking about generals. We're talking about Air Force pilots. We're talking about governors of states that claim that, hey, this is beyond our understanding of the laws of physics.
Can I have an unidentified flying object that is not necessarily from some other place?
It's possible, but we've looked at all the alternatives. These are multiple sightings by multiple modes. In other words...
This is the same scientist who was talking about shooting stuff out of the sky with lasers years and years ago, despite everyone saying, like, Jewish space lasers don't exist. They do. There's also Russian space lasers, and we have them. I think in this book, though, what they're going to get to, I'm not going to play the whole clip, is Podesta mentioned as well. But that was what was hyperlinked. In February 2015, and that was from 2010, by the way. In February 2015, after stepping down as senior advisor to President Barack Obama, Podesta wrote on Twitter, "Finally, my biggest failure of 2014, once again not securing the disclosure of the UFO files." He used the hashtag, "The truth is still out there." And in April, Podesta claimed that if elected, Hillary Clinton would declassify as many documents pertaining to UFOs as possible. In a statement sent to the Wall Street Journal, the Clinton campaign condemned the alleged involvement of Russia in the hack and WikiLeaks dump, though they did not specifically mention DeLonge's exchanges with Podesta. Let's read an email, shall we? Let's just do the whole thing. Yeah, we got one here. To Podesta. Remember, like, for those who don't know, I'm sure you do, like, Pizzagate comes out of this, Podesta with the weird demonic art in the house, a lot of the slang, that WikiLeaks dump was a pretty epic pulling back of the curtain. From the singer of Blink-182 to John Podesta. Hi, John. Tom DeLonge here, the one who interviewed for that special documentary not too long ago. Things are moving with the project. The novels, films, and nonfiction works are blooming and finishing. Just had a preliminary meeting with Spielberg's chief operating officer at DreamWorks. More meetings are now on the books. Real quick, remember, we have a new, I believe it's Spielberg, right, with the movie Disclosure coming out. Why now? Everything seems to be pointing in the direction of a narrative shift. Oh, we have alien movies all the time, Shane. I know. But we don't always have the president of the United States talking openly about releasing all the UFO files. It's pretty much been laughed at or laughed about by presidents, for the most part. Both were in charge. I would like to bring two very important people out to meet you in D.C. We read that part. I think you will find them very interesting, as they were principal leadership relating to our sensitive topic, which must be the UFOs disclosure. Both were in charge of most fragile divisions as it relates to classified science and DoD topics. Other words, these are A-level officials worth our time, and as well, just looking to have a casual and private conversation in person. Here are some photos of from the material I am using as I meet with studio partners. I do find it very odd to know, as we're not surprised by this, but just to see it now, the interconnection between government officials and how they might help shape narratives in Hollywood or documentaries, independent or not. The same way a lot of these whistleblowers are being used as quote-unquote experts to release things. That's why, like, when Anna Paulina Luna uses them, these whistleblowers that I don't find very credible, as the experts, and then she goes on record saying this is why she believes in interdimensional beings, I don't fully believe that. So something's going on. I think she believes in the spiritual realm. And I believe she's also talked about the interdimensional beings being demonic, which sounds like, I can get on board with that. But it seems like they are this is just theory. It seems like the government, have created individuals to help seed false narratives, like a Operation Mockingbird situation. But for disclosure, that's crazy. There's a hummingbird at my window. This one looks real. This is so beautiful. I wish I had a camera to show the hummingbird. I don't know if it's real. We'll see. I will trap it with my drone. Tom DeLonge's desire to believe and be deceived by the government. This is from steamit.com from 8 years ago. I'm not going to read all of this, but I just wanted a little bit of an alternate perspective here. The other day I watched, this is the writer of the article talking, rock star Tom DeLonge's interview with Joe Rogan. At the time it came out, everyone was talking, saying Tom was a raving lunatic, and that's what Rogan seems to think of it too. For me, he doesn't quite strike me as having gone off the rails. His thoughts are obviously quite clear and intelligible, and he is often grounded enough to say things in a way that can communicate with those around him. However, there were a few indications of eccentricity. His lack of awareness that Joe was making fun of him, his telling of unusual and pointless anecdotes, and the seemingly outlandish claims about his high-level connections in government. It's unlikely that everything or most of what DeLonge claims is true. It's possible that he's not crazy and he's a con man doing it for the fame, a fading star craving the attention which his music once commanded, or doing it for the money collecting from early investors in the project. I mean, he might have seemed like he wasn't as famous back then, but like his other side projects, while not, I guess, as huge as Blink, also drew some pretty enormous crowds. And Blink's back together now, drawing enormous crowds. It's also possible that he's just gullible, somehow being fooled into accepting too much, believing too much, and hoping too much. This is the most likely scenario, and I can agree with that for the most part. Okay, we know this. I don't have to get into all his background. You know, he's the singer of Blink-182. Now DeLonge is the founder of To the Stars, a company whose stated mission is to slowly disclose information about unidentified aerial phenomena and extraterrestrials. It's important to note that DeLonge has been obsessed with extraterrestrials and UFOs for a very, very long time. A history of interest in the song Aliens Exist. Spilling my coffee on the floor. Which was released in 1999. That's crazy. Tom sings about something being in the back room, conspiracies being dumb, and the final lines, I'm not like you guys, 12 majestic lies, you know where that's going. A reference to the alleged Operation Majestic 12, supposedly authorized by Harry Truman to investigate the circumstances surrounding the crash at Roswell, New Mexico. Like many people, like what if McCassland was just abducted? What if Nancy Guthrie was abducted? What if that's what they're going to do? They're going to tell us that the people who went missing were actually abducted by the aliens, and this is going to be how they begin to reveal the aliens to us. But then they won't come off as peaceful. Maybe they don't want them to be peaceful. Maybe we want the war to go to them, which will promote the fake world peace / New World Order, where we all have to come together now and fight the aliens, the fake aliens that Elon built. They're just like in 3D printed alien skin suits stretched over Optimuses. That's where we're going. Like many people, the writer says, I've heard the songs on the radio, but never knew the reference, consistent to what he stated. Okay. Throughout the interview, when Rogan asked the question, Tom's frequent response is, I can't talk about that, which frustrated a lot of listeners. That makes it less likely that he's crazy. A madman can make up any answer on the spot and believe it and is less prone to restraint. That's a good point. It also provides evidence opposing a con, as a salesman loves to build up his story and is afraid of being seen as not knowing. I remember Rogan coming off a little condescending in that interview, but it seemed mostly fun. I remember people really ragging on Tom for that interview for some of the reasons stated here. But then things came out in the news that backed up what Tom was saying, which made him seem more credible, to which I was thinking, well, perhaps he appears right because the people feeding him the information knew that they would release this down the road. So this is like a soft disclosure, soft launch with Tom on Rogan to get the people ready. see how it, the people take it. They mock them like they do with a lot of things that are hard to believe, especially the alien phenomena, for lack of better words, quote unquote alien. And then stories came out later on about, I think it was the Tic Tacs. This hummingbird is so funny. Like, I don't know if you can hear that, but it keeps bouncing against the window. Should let it in. That'd be sweet. Can you have a hummingbird as a pet? Look that up after I trap it. I won't trap it. You don't trap hummingbirds. I think that's bad. But then so he was kind of vindicated with these reports, but are the reports true? Like, are we going to believe the news now? Like, the news that always lies to us, we're just now, well, they said the thing I wanted to hear, so now I believe the news. I think that's part of the point. I think that's what they do. They want to confirm your bias, which is why I am reminding you to please be suspicious of anything that confirms your bias. Please. This is how they start to control the population. They tell you something you want to hear that either satiates your fear or inflates it. And then they got you. If they know what you fear, then they control you. DeLonge does say stuff in the interview about high-level officials, saying, look at the people I'm surrounded by to give weight to his claims. To me, that doesn't help at all, but okay. Many disregarded this as big talk, but it's true. Tom is talking to powerful people, and they're talking back, and now one of them has gone missing, as we are about to have quote-unquote UFO disclosure. What's that about? All right, then it gets into the Podesta emails. We don't have to read that again. Oh, yeah, this open. We'll get back to that later. Let's see what this is. Yes. Let's read this now. As we dive further into this talk of UFO disclosure, this is from today by John Greenwald. This is, you'll remember him. We just talked about him at the Black Vault. This is on theblackvault.com. You'll remember that a lot of files were deleted, but he had backups. Okay, I wish it was a little easier to read. John, if you're listening, the font color you've chosen looks a little too faded. I know I am pretty blind. But, so he's got, first we'll just read this from Trump. This is something he released about UFO disclosure. We went over it when it came out, but we'll reread it to jog our memories from February 19th, last month. Based on the tremendous interest shown, I will be directing the Secretary of War and other irrelevant departments and agencies to begin the process of identifying and releasing government files related to alien and extraterrestrial life. I like how he used both things there. Unidentified aerial phenomena and unidentified flying objects. Again, both things. Look at that. For the old heads and the new ones. And any and all other information connected to these highly complex but extremely interesting and important matters. God bless America. Okay, now from John. Just days after former President Donald Trump publicly stated that he wanted to order the release of UFO and UAP-related files, the U.S. Navy formally denied an appeal seeking the release of 78 photographs designated as unidentified aerial phenomena. The decision dated February 24th, 2026, upholds a prior full denial of a FOIA request filed by the Black Vault. Remember, this guy does a ton of FOIA requests. In September 2022, under case number, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it's there. The appeal was assigned tracking number, this whole big long number. The original request sought all photographs with the designation of unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAP, as archived by the U.S. Navy. In November 2024, the Navy's initial denial authority determined that 78 responsive photographs existed but withheld them in full under FOIA Exemption B1, citing classification under Executive Order 13526 and the UAP Classification Code. So, what do you think that's about? In its appeal response, the Office of the Judge Advocate General confirmed that all 78 photographs remain classified. This is from the letter. We'll read the letter. These are always fun. If you've ever done any FOIA requests to get the rejections, which gotten many. We're still recording? That's great. Upon receiving your FOIA appeal, My office contacted the IDA to inquire as to the classification of the information you sought to obtain in your FOIA request. The IDA informed my office that it consulted with a subject matter expert regarding the classification status of the 78 photographs. Imagine if that was McCassland. The IDA confirmed that as of today, these records are still classified in accordance with Executive Order 13526. Furthermore, given the nature of the requested documents, segregation was not possible. Here, as the Department of the Navy's appellate authority for FOIA appeals, I must defer to the original classification authority's determination as reported by the IDA regarding the classification status of the information you sought related to national security. It's always national security. Who are they keeping secure? It's not us. The requirements under FOIA exemption, okay, you get it. Denied. The decision further concludes that given the nature of the requested documents, segregation, okay, we read, the Navy emphasized that when information is properly classified under FOIA Exemption B1, there is effectively no discretion to release it, citing federal regulations. So, the appeal is denied. The legal foundation of the continued withholding is Executive Order 13526, okay. Let's see what else he says here. So it's just interesting, though, that this seems pretty important. These 78 pictures related to UAP directly. And now, just days after Trump says he wants to release everything, you're not going to get it. We're not going to get anything. I mean, we might get things. I don't think it's going to amount to much. Some people will probably look at it and try to make a lot out of it, especially the MAGA types who really want Trump to look good no matter what. We'll say, look, he released this, we learned this and that. It'll probably be stuff that we already knew about with maybe names redacted or something. But I don't think they're going to let the public see the important stuff. And the important stuff is most likely tech that we've built and or that our government is legitimately talking to demons. I think that's possible. I think that's where a lot of this is coming from. You know, like I was talking, whenever that was, 2 weeks ago, about reverse engineering ancient technology from advanced ancient civilizations that survived over the course of the past 6,000 years. And by survived, that doesn't mean that they actually are immortal, although that is possible. If they're transhumanists, imagine transhumanists from 3,000 years ago who found out a way to survive for way, way long. And by survive, you could say not even in his own body, but like survive by jumping consciousness to consciousness by using some form of AI and uploading his brain to some machine that maybe they need to survive, quote unquote, for 3,000 years. Or, which I think is very likely, there are descendants of these breakaway civilizations that know this history, this knowledge is passed down like an heirloom, and that's how they survive, right? It's the inverse of the Gospels, in my opinion, where because I think a lot of this stuff is rooted in evil. I don't think this technology is going to be helpful. I said that as a giant, I don't know if that was a truck or a F-15. Or just a really big bird flowing by. Anyway, the appeal submitted in November 2025 argued that there is substantial public interest in the photographs, particularly in light of the recent congressional scrutiny over alleged UAP overclassification. It cited testimony from the November 13th, 2024 congressional hearing titled Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena Exposing the Truth, where witnesses raised concerns about excessive secrecy surrounding UAP-related material. They're just not going to let you see it. It's Raytheon, it's Lockheed Martin, it's Palantir, it's Anduril. You know, they are building this technology, having joyrides in the sky. A lot of the stuff that McCassland is talking about in that 2013 lecture, that the parts that I got through, is about technology that is very far advanced and used in the battlefield as weaponry or surveillance. So you can imagine, you know, the things that they're using or building that we don't know anything about. So I just want to give you that as we get into this. Now, from the Telegraph, I thought this would be interesting. Are you kidding me? They already put it behind the paywall, but you guys know the secret now. Let's see if it works. It was from someone in Britain who worked on, I guess, UFO sightings. And here we go. It's from the Telegraph. I work for Britain's UFO unit. Yes, aliens are real. By Nick Pope. Barack Obama's dropping of an alien bombshell, he said they're real, in a podcast interview, set the pulses of millions of believers racing at the weekend. But the former U.S. president has since qualified his response. In a statement on Instagram, he said this comment had been made in the heat of the moment. He had simply meant that, given the vastness of the universe, we're unlikely to be alone. He added, I saw no evidence during my presidency that extraterrestrials have made contact with us. Really? Case closed? Maybe not, says Nick Pope. For much of the early 1990s, I was posted to the Ministry of Defense's so-called UFO desk. While most of our cases turned out to be misidentifications of known objects or phenomena, a small but statistically significant proportion appeared to defy conventional explanation. Such cases often involved military pilots whose sightings were sometimes corroborated by anomalous radar returns. They suggested that some of these UFOs were capable of speeds, maneuvers, and accelerations that seemed to exceed the cutting edge of known aerospace technology. Our flagship cases included the infamous Rendlesham Forest incident from December 1980. We went over that maybe 2 summers ago, where U.S. Air Force personnel reported sightings of a small metallic craft that allegedly briefly landed. Activity continued over 3 consecutive nights, and witnesses included the previously skeptical Deputy Base Commander Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt. Years later, the U.S.'s Department of Veterans Affairs settled at least one case from a witness whose testimony was bolstered by a declassified MOD intelligence assessment of UFOs that stated witnesses, this is a quote now, were probably exposed to UAP radiation for longer than normal UAP sighting periods. UAP unidentified, we know what that means, is the official government term for UFOs. Okay, thanks, Nick. In March 1993, a wave of UFO sightings took place across the UK, 2 military bases allegedly overflown. A vast triangular-shaped craft was seen by military witnesses accelerating from a virtual hover to high Mach speeds in an instant. I think that's something we built. I've interviewed countless pilots, military and commercial, who've had extraordinary, sometimes terrifying mid-air encounters with such craft. Government files document several extremely close shaves. Some interested observers, myself included, felt unable to rule out extraterrestrial explanation for such sightings. This used to be a minority report. It isn't now. Fast forward to the present, and it's difficult to overstate the way the topic of UFOs has transitioned from fringe to mainstream in the U.S. in recent years. After decades of apparent non-interest, the Pentagon set up an office to investigate the phenomenon. They have also been caught lying about UFOs, so just always keep that in mind. The MOD sent officials to a Five Eyes intelligence meeting on the subject in May 2023. Five Eyes being the conglomerate of spies from 5 different countries. We are included, I believe. It is also France, New Zealand, and Canada, and Britain and the UK. I always forget who are all in the Five Eyes. Some of the official interest stems from the Chinese spy balloon saga of 2023, or more recent drone incursions. Remember those. But it seems to go further than this. Whistleblowers have testified to what they coyly term non-human intelligence. It's the engagement from the U.S. Congress that's been most telling, and one cannot help but see Obama's comments against this background. Congressional representatives have pursued this topic relentlessly. They are not just a handful of mavericks, but big guns such as Marco Rubio, now Donald Trump's Secretary of State, and former Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. There have been classified briefings and public hearings. The Pentagon has released forward-looking infrared videos of UFOs taken from military jets. Senior defense officials have confirmed their satellite imagery of these craft. Having looked at this issue from inside the government, I think extraterrestrial visitation is a distinct possibility. I suspect Obama knows more than he's saying, but felt he went too far on the record. In a situation where presidents are used to fastballs from broadcasting A-listers, walking back comments made in a YouTube podcast seems bizarre and suspicious. As the UFO community speculates on the imminent delivery of its holy grail of disclosure, official confirmation of extraterrestrial visitation, I can't help but wonder if Obama's remarks are a prelude to something more. Perhaps one day soon there will be an unscheduled live broadcast from the Oval Office. My fellow Americans, people of the world, we are not alone. And will you believe it if that happens? There's a little poll here at the end. Do you think aliens are real? I'm clicking no. Let's see what that says. Oh, because I'm reading the free one. It doesn't let me vote. So I can't find out how many people voted. Well, that's too bad. What else did I have here? Okay. This is Hillary. I was initially going to start the episode here because on Thursday evening or afternoon, this is what I was seeing. I was like, oh, this is going to be good. But then we had this missing guy. But let's tune in here because this is all connected to UFOs for today's topic.
The end, quite unusual because I started being asked about UFOs and a series of questions about Pizzagate, one of the most vile, bogus conspiracy theories. It then got, at the end...
She's known for telling the truth, so I'd like to know more about that. But I thought that was interesting. What else did I have here pulled up? Oh, yeah, I had this. Just a random thing I saw. I thought I'd read really quick. Thomas Jefferson saw a UFO in 1800 while serving as vice president. Thomas Jefferson recorded a phenomenon reported by the naturalist and astronomer William Dunbar. Dunbar described a fast-moving crimson-red cigar-shaped luminous object roughly 70 to 80 feet long, traveling about 200 yards above the ground. So, as you're hearing me read that, it doesn't sound like Thomas Jefferson saw it. It sounds like he recorded it via William Dunn. So, just want to throw that out there. Thought that was fun. What else? I had other things. My computer's being slow. Okay. We'll stick. I mean, the Bohemian Grove thing, I don't think it's the craziest news. I had that pulled up because they released the list of Bohemian Grove attendees. I doubt it's the entire list. Conan O'Brien was on the list. Makes sense. He looks like a skinny owl. But I want to stick with the UFOs for now. This is from the Daily Mail. On February 26, revealed unexplained objects that stop and accelerate quickly in space detected by highly qualified observers, says former UFO chief. Spacecraft we know don't behave that way. The Pentagon's UFO office former chief has revealed unexplained objects were detected in space and that some perform maneuvers defying anything in America's known aerospace arsenal. Lieutenant Colonel Tim Phillips, who was acting director at All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO, we know about them, until last April, told the Daily Mail that while most cases involved objects in the air, some detections extended beyond the atmosphere. I would say probably 90% of our cases, if not higher, were always in the air domain. Most of these were in the atmosphere, but were things in space. But there were things in space. We know that AARO is a team within the Department of War, and it was tasked with investigating all UFO cases with a focus on data-backed reports from skilled military members like fighter pilots or radar operators, which is probably why that was most of the stuff referenced in congressional hearings. Phillips described, because I talk about how we don't get a lot of civilian reports in the congressional hearings. Most of the reports we get are from military bases, military personnel, pilots, and such. Phillips described reports from highly qualified observers who witnessed these objects displaying capabilities beyond anything the U.S. government is known to have. He said the object had the ability to stop very, very quickly, accelerate quickly, right-angle turns, the things that aircraft and spacecraft we know don't behave that way. I just think we built these things and they don't know about it. But those few dozen reports kept the experts scratching their heads. We're taking some of the best and brightest in the world, and they could not explain what it is, Phillips said. His office was also able to rule out the possibility that the objects belonged to any known U.S. or foreign program. Remember what I said about how highly compartmentalized all this is? Okay? We were able to conclusively prove it wasn't a known system, either adversary or friendly, he said. Despite the extraordinary nature of some sightings, Phillips told the Daily Mail that the objects never appeared to pose a direct threat. We never saw any hostile behavior. I couldn't speak to the intent, but we saw them in sensitive locations sometimes. He also noted that some objects appeared to actively avoid detection. He saw their attempts not to be surveyed, and in other cases, they didn't seem to care. Are you guys thinking this is are they talking about aliens? Are they talking about aliens, or are they talking about how they don't understand they're being experimented on? I think they're being experimented on by some higher up agency that's been in charge of building this top secret technology, perhaps technology, I'm just surmising here, that was built at Skunkworks, that was behind the quote unquote invisible enemy that made all those men sick. We don't know what they were building, but they built crazy aircraft before. So I'd imagine that they were building other crazy aircraft that no one can talk about, that they worked on in such a top secret setting that their information is totally data masked, which is why they can't get help from VA centers, from the hospitals. So I just tend to believe that a lot of this stuff these people are seeing, despite how high up they think they are and how qualified they think they are. I'm sure these are smart. Some of them are really smart people, and I don't think all of them are put there to actively seed the narrative with bad information. Although some of them for sure are. Some of them might really think they're doing good work and good research, but I think there's always some wall between them and that final answer, and that a lot of the things they're witnessing, or the things they're collecting, if we're talking about AARO collecting information from witnesses, is people seeing things that we have built. But, okay, it's not always in the sky. Because I also have this. We mentioned something like this last week. Underwater phenomena. Mysterious UFO hotspots uncovered around underwater canyons off of U.S. coasts. This also might remind everyone of the Epstein files we were reading like 2 weeks ago about how they had, Epstein and Ghislaine in particular, I guess, had interest in finding underwater structures like pyramids down there in the Caribbean and I think off the coast of Texas. New research has suggested that UFOs could be clustering around underwater canyons off the U.S. coastline, raising fresh questions about whether mysterious craft could be operating beneath the ocean. An analysis of more than 80,000 reports found concentrated clusters of sightings near steep submarine canyon systems along the West Coast. The findings stem from an independent study testing the so-called crypto-terrestrial hypothesis, which proposes that unidentified aerial phenomena could originate from hidden non-human intelligence on Earth rather than distant planets. Did you hear that, right? I'm just going to repeat that one more time. The theory here from this hypothesis, the crypto-terrestrial hypothesis, is that unidentified aerial phenomena could originate from hidden non-human intelligence on Earth. So it's slightly like what I'm thinking, but I don't know if it's non-human, unless non-human is demon. I also think perhaps it's human, hidden, ancient human civilizations. Using publicly available UFO sighting data and detailed ocean depth maps, the report identified correlations between reported sightings and deep underwater terrain features. These freaking ads trying to take out my reading. The analysis also uncovered a striking geographical anomaly with clustering patterns appearing on the West Coast, but not on the East or Gulf coasts. So the Gulf would have been what Epstein was interested in, but that's what they said they were underwater, like pyramids. 3 regions, La Jolla, Mugu Canyon, and Monterey Canyon, showed unusually high concentrations of sightings compared with population-based expectations. The report suggested sightings could occur in temporal bursts rather than being evenly distributed over time. While the findings stop short of proving any underwater origin, they add data-driven support to growing scientific interest in unexplained objects moving between air and sea. The tic-tac, you remember, up and down through the water. So the study was conducted by a scientist from Warsaw, is a Warsaw-based lawyer and independent researcher who analyzed 80,000 UFO reports from nonprofit National UFO Reporting Center, that's NUFORC, and compared them with bathymetric data from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. The crypto-terrestrial hypothesis, that is fun to say, has gained renewed attention in recent years due to several high-profile military encounters involving objects that appear to transition between air and sea. Last week, we talked about how Representative Burleson was told that there was a football-sized UFO, although it's not flying, like underwater, moving underwater. One of the most famous incidents occurred in November 2004 when U.S. Navy pilots aboard USS Nimitz detected multiple unidentified objects descending from 80,000 feet in less than a second during training exercises off Southern California. There is our tic-tac. Remember, this is from Commander David Fravor. Later described seeing a white capsule-shaped craft, which was later dubbed the tic-tac. It appeared to intelligently respond to the pilot's maneuvers. We also saw video of what they claim to be a UFO. This was at the end of last year, dodging a Hellfire missile. There's a crazy video of a Hellfire missile being shot out at this war that's going on. It's a war. You don't try to redefine it. It is a war, guys. There's not boots on the ground. War changes every time. Look how war has changed. We're probably days away from boots on the ground. It'll probably be a mixture of robots and people. So this study from the lawyer found that UFO sightings near submarine canyons. Who was a submarine? Who had their license to be a submarine pilot? Sightings near submarine canyons did not occur. It's Ghislaine, if you don't know. Did not occur randomly, but tended to cluster in bursts over short periods of time. My computer wants to die. First, the analysis did find a statistically significant spatial association between submarine canyon features and UAP report density along the U.S. West Coast, he said. These are not trivial numbers. The association also correctly predicted 4 out of 5 top hotspot cells. But the second surprise was equally important. The effect is absent on the east and Gulf coasts. It is not a universal pattern. It concentrates in specific West Coast regions and does not generalize across the full U.S. coastline. And if you look at the map here, it is completely very, very red. Although there is some red on the East Coast, but not as close. They're a little off the coast on the east, but very dense in these underwater canyons off of California, all the way up to Washington. Each of the 3 clusters of sightings was associated with deep underwater topography. In these areas, the number of sightings far exceeded what would be expected based on population distribution alone. Lahala recorded 820 sightings. They caution that the results do not prove that unidentified craft are emerging from the ocean. He acknowledged that social factors could explain some clustering, such as increased reports following widely publicized sightings. Still, he argued that the geographic patterns warrant further investigation using independent data sets and additional methods, including sonar analysis. By comparing sonar records with UAP sighting clusters, he said it could help determine whether unexplained underwater activity coincides with reported hotspots. The underwater stuff is really, really fun. What are they hiding down there? What are they hiding down there? There's something. There's certain, like whether it's us or something else, something is hiding underneath, without a doubt. I 1000% believe that. Before I let you go, tonight is the night. So if you're going to stay up late after the show, you know that the worm moon is turning into a blood moon. You want to hear about it? Just be prepared. Be prepared. With the planetary alignment now behind us, which just happened, another rare astronomical event is just days away. When was this written? So it was yesterday. The fiery blood red moon is set to rise Tuesday morning amid a total lunar eclipse, an event that is well worth looking up for. Here's what time to watch. Okay, so it's going to rise on March 3rd, so it'll be early tomorrow morning. Heralding the earthworms that spring to life as winter ends and the soil begins to warm ahead of planting season, according to the Farmer's Almanac. Shout out to the Farmer's Almanac. On the morning of March 3rd, a total lunar eclipse will occur during the rise of the full moon, giving way to a spectacular view of the blood moon across North America, and the only lunar eclipse visible anywhere in the world this year. No special equipment or glasses are needed to view the lunar eclipse. Here's everything to know. So they call this the worm moon. It's set to rise Tuesday, March 3rd, with peak illumination by 6:30 a.m. The big, bright full moon will be visible rising above the horizon on Monday and Tuesday evenings. The March full worm moon will become a blood moon during the total lunar eclipse. Let's see if there's anything else here. Should be fun. Don't get sacrificed. Don't you go out there, find yourself stumbling across some crazy ritual. You know, I told you guys about the blood magic those witches were doing in Georgia on a full moon on a battlefield. Oh, what is this? I'm just looking at some crazy witchcraft website. See what they're saying. See if they want to, yeah, this is from hercampus.com. In ancient Mesopotamia, particularly among Babylonian and Assyrian socialites, lunar eclipses were studied with remarkable precision and treated as political emergencies. Court astrologers tracked celestial movements and interpreted eclipses as direct omens for political leaders. You know, a lot of people are saying that Trump has chosen to do a lot of this war because it's leading up to this. And there's a lot of stuff that's been said that's going to happen today in terms of Iran launching a heavy wave of attacks. Trump also saying the same. Perhaps the blood moon becomes one big discombobulator for all I know. But there are lots of theories about that. I think about Trump holding that glowing orb. Remember that picture with him and like the Saudi Arabian king? I don't know why that image popped in my mind today. Historical records describe a practice sometimes called the substitute king ritual. A temporary stand-in would be placed on the throne during the eclipse period, absorbing the predicted misfortune. The real ruler would withdraw until the danger had passed. I was just curious about this because I do think there are people in the world, obviously, but in all government and just random witches running hotels in Georgia that believe this stuff, that would do this stuff. So while we either think this is evil or just mock it because we don't believe in it at all, there are people who do believe in this and that they take this stuff seriously. You know, just like how Halloween, big pagan night that a lot of witches like the fact that Christians unknowingly celebrate, you know, take part unknowingly, unbeknownst to them in their rituals. In ancient Greece, eclipses were similarly interpreted as warnings. The historian Thucydides, I don't know Greek, where's my wife? She's Greek, recorded how an eclipse during the Peloponnesian War influenced Athenian military decisions. Roman writers later described eclipses as warnings from the gods, signs that their divine order had been disturbed, or like today in 2026 when the false moon is being, they're just changing the filter. Put the blood filter on the moon tonight because we got to usher in some really evil stuff tomorrow. Across East Asia, ancient Chinese records describe eclipses as a celestial dragon devouring the moon. Historical texts recount communities beating drums and clashing metal to frighten the creature away. Some became a ritual defense. Among the Maya of Mesoamerica, there was sophisticated astronomical knowledge, and eclipses still carried mythic weight. Some inscriptions and codices depict serpents consuming the moon. The Aztecs associated eclipses with cosmic instability and feared that celestial disorder could spill into earthly catastrophe. For the Inca in the Andes, a blood red moon signaled that a jaguar was attacking it. If the jaguar consumed the moon, it might descend to earth next. People would shout, "Shakespeare's, shake your spear at Shakespeare. Shake your spear at Shakespeare." Anyone out there know that one? And create as much noise as possible to protect the sky and themselves. In Norse cosmology, eclipses were linked to wolves named Skoll and Haiti chasing the sun and moon across the heavens. When one briefly caught its prey, darkness fell. The event foreshadowed Ragnarok, the prophesied end of the world. So there you go. Things to look forward to. Well, I'm going to try to take a look at the moon tonight and see what's going on. Stay strapped, as always. The world is always crazy. This is not unique to today, guys. This is human nature. There's always war. There's always evil. We've inherited it. Our parents did. Our children will. Best we can do is give them that foundation and faith. Give them confidence in themselves and remind them to always see the beauty and to have a strong defense against the dark world. We will be back tomorrow, unless the moon disappears like Major General McCassland. And then I'll still try to do this, just with, I guess, more lights. And if I don't have internet because the internet disappeared with the moon, I will find that hummingbird and other birds, and we will deliver it by bird, like passenger pigeon, if I can find those, to you directly. So please dox yourself in the comments with your addresses so we can send those to you. No, please don't do that. Please don't do that. I am kidding. I will send it to you telepathically. All right. Well, have a great night, guys. Stay safe. Have a blessed night. Till tomorrow.